Welcome, everyone. I'm Gina Grillo, president of the Ad Club. And my hope is that everyone is continuing to find the silver linings by staying healthy and positive as we all continue to be in pandemic mode. One thing that you can be assured of is that the Ad Club and the Andes are committed to keeping our community connected. This is a challenging time for all of us, but I know that we're all going to get through it together. The virtual clubhouse that we've created has really gained momentum, providing our members with online resources. And we hope that our members continue to contribute to this ongoing opportunity to see the club as a platform. Our webinar today is in collaboration with our corporate member, Ogury. They have just been outstanding partners as we together are trying to remain connected to the community and to provide content that is really breaking through. We hope that this conversation sparks more conversations with other members. The one aspect of life that I think all of us are truly missing is the freedom to travel. This sector in particular can share insights, and I know that we all can't wait to hear what they have to say. We have a lot of people tuning in, so it's my pleasure to introduce Evan Rutchik, CRO at Ogury.
Great, thank you so much, Gina. I appreciate it. And Ad Club has been an incredible partner, so thanks again. And thanks for everyone for taking the time today to join. Like Gina mentioned, I'm Evan Rutchik. I'm the CRO here in the Americas for Ogury. And today I'm going to be discussing mobile user behavior trends and certain predictions that we're going to make within the travel and tourism vertical. But before I jump into the content, I just wanted to give a quick overview of who Ogury is for those at this point who may not be familiar. Founded in 2014, Ogury is the creator of the first advertising engine driven by user choice. And our Ogury advertising engine is fundamentally built on user consent and preferences toward data sharing and ad experience. And it's fueled by unique, reliable mobile user and behavior data from over 400 million consented user profiles that we have globally. And it's powered by our purpose-built algorithms and our innovative ad formats. And of course, I'm more than happy to share all you'd like to know about Ogury at a later time. For anybody who might be interested, just feel free to reach out. So, but for now, let's get into it. So you can see the agenda. Today, I'm going to kick it off by providing an overview of the current travel and tourism landscape. And then I'll jump straight into a persona breakdown of the winter holiday traveler. And then we're going to end on a virtual chat with Molly Battin, VP of Marketing at Delta Airlines, and Alex Sutton, who's the Director of Paid Digital Media at Avis Budget Group. And I'm really excited for this chat. It's going to be an interesting perspective from both the airline and the auto travel verticals. Okay, so first we'll kick it off here with the landscape as it is today. And as you're all aware, the travel industry has clearly been significantly impacted by COVID-19. As all the lockdown measures were put in place, business trips were canceled immediately, vacations were postponed, and understandably, this resulted in a pause on consumer spending due to the uncertainty surrounding the virus in general and our own economic situations. And in fact, it's anticipated that digital travel sales will actually decline by 44.7% this year alone, netting out at just over $115 billion. And this obviously sounds like a pretty significant decline, and it really is. It's resulted in many travel companies becoming as scrappy as possible with their budgets, which we'll go on, we'll discuss a lot more in our discussion with some ideas from Delta and Avis. But one of the largest budgets a travel brand has in their, in their line items is their advertising budget. And some brands actually stopped advertising altogether during the height of the pandemic, while others shifted their strategy to ensure that they were still communicating with potential future travelers. And as it turns out, people enjoy actually receiving these ads from their favorite travel brands. Right? A survey released by Destination Analysts shared that 56% of people actually felt happy or very happy after seeing a recent travel ad. And I think a lot of brands have done a really great job at continuing a dialogue with their travelers. But what they've done is they've just simply changed their regular messaging, and it's been important to do so. So here's a few examples that I saw that I really liked in the execution, right? Hotels.com featured their mascot, Captain Obvious. He was seen sanitizing his hands and asking consumers to stay home. Uber took a similar approach with this, where they had the messaging, "Thank you for not riding," featured no cars, no drivers. Instead, it just showed empty streets. Different tourism boards led with nostalgic and empathetic messages. Scotland's tourism board actually shared an ad of their beautiful highlands with the message, "Their absence makes the heart grow fonder." And even Switzerland's tourism board encouraged people to dream now, travel later. These are just a couple examples, and we'll chat more about the different messaging approaches that Delta and Avis Budget Group actually took with Molly and Alex. But what you'll notice is consistent across all the brands, right? It's their focus on the consumer's health and safety. So what we wanted to see how the prioritization of safety changed over time, right? And Ogury conducted a survey back in May and asked over 1,500 US respondents some questions that were specifically related to travel. And one of the questions we asked was, what would incentivize you most to travel? And to no surprise, at least to us in any case, that the top response was safety, followed by cost, and then to see family. Right. And we ran the survey again last week and got nearly the exact same response. And this goes to show how much consumers really are prioritizing safety above all else. And if you think about what would have incentivized us all pre-pandemic, I'm sure cost or your frequent flyer program would have been a much higher priority on this list, but safety has clearly taken the top spot. So we know what's important to travelers, right? But if we want to take a look ahead, we might see something a little bit different or something unique as well, right? So current research is showing us that consumer sentiment towards traveling will continue to improve throughout the year. And you might feel this yourself personally as well. But with sentiment now improving, what types of trips are travelers actually planning to take? The Global Web Index asked survey respondents what types of vacations they plan to take in the next 12 months. And 46% of people said a domestic vacation was top of their list. 20% of people said a staycation in their local areas, and 10% said either short haul or long haul international vacations. So that begs the question, when are people actually planning to travel, right? And according to a survey conducted by Zeta Global, 42% of consumers are planning to travel this holiday season, and they're booking now. And in fact, the short-term rental property management platform Guesty shared that their Thanksgiving bookings are already up 38% this year, which is a pretty big number. And overall reservations for the winter holidays are up 40%. So whether it's to see a loved one or really just to get away, it's obvious and it's relatively apparent that Americans are eager to travel over the holiday period. So with that said, I wanted to better understand who these travelers actually were in order to make informed predictions surrounding their future behaviors. So in the next section, I'll share a bit about some insights actually about the winter holiday traveler, which I gathered from our proprietary platform, Ogury Active Insights. And before I go into the findings, just to give you an overview of Ogury Active Insights and our advanced custom persona study, Ogury is collecting traceable and trusted user consent through our consent and preference management platform that I mentioned before. And we then just start to gather consented signals from multiple sources. Purpose-built algorithms are then transforming these consented signals into a unique and reliable understanding of the mobile user and their journey. And this is providing us with a view of installed apps, usage of apps, websites browsed, and demographics of these users. And our Active Insights tool is actually visualizing these insights in a way that are both directly actionable and directly are insightful for your marketing strategies. Our Ogury's advanced custom persona, the study that we did, the persona study we did, it's a study within Active Insights Suite that uncovers the demographic behaviors and the demographic breakdowns, of specific audiences, plus their interests and discriminant behaviors. So it goes a bit deeper into understanding who they might be. So as we saw in the research stats I shared, many Americans are planning to travel regionally. But again, I wanted to better understand this specific persona, this traveler. So I created a study for the time period of last holiday season, which is defined by their use of airline and hotel apps and sites, in addition to booking aggregator and trip planning apps and sites. And here you can see the takeaways of the persona, right? In terms of demographics, They skew slightly more female at 52%, and the majority of these travelers are above the age of 35. Their discriminant behaviors include the sites and apps that represent this persona's affinities for the brands. And as you can see there, they show an affinity for various car rental apps and sites such as Budget, restaurant booking apps and sites including OpenTable, and trip planning apps including TripIt, and travel update sites including Travel Weekly Update. Now looking at what else they're interested in to really get a better idea of the overall persona. Now this traveler persona likes to read books on the go. 36% of these users own the Amazon Kindle app and 26% own the Audible app. They're also quite tech savvy, with 43% of these users owning the Smart Things app. And these users are interested in restaurant reviews as well. 28% of these users own the Yelp app, which is almost double the average of the general population. They also like to rent houses when they travel. Right? These users are 4.9x more likely than the general population to own the HomeAway vacation rentals app. And they take ride shares. Right? 43% of these users own the Uber app, which is over twice as likely as the general population. And finally, they love the outdoors. Right? These users are 3.8x more likely than the general population to own the All Trails hiking, the running and mountain biking apps as well. Beyond that, it is important to note that interests can change based on the demographics of the user, right? So each demographic is interested in the travel category as a whole, but the specific apps that this persona is most interested, it actually varies. And what we found is that the 18 to 24-year-old traveler, they're most interested in navigation type apps, where the 25 to 34-year-old traveler are more interested in booking aggregators. 35 to 44-year-olds are more interested in last-minute hotel bookings. 45 to 54-year-olds are more interested in hotel-owned apps, and travelers over the age of 55 are most interested in the mobile passport apps. So now that we understand the behaviors and interests of the broader regional traveler persona, it's apparent that there are relevant sub-personas within that persona group as well. Right? So based on the data leading up to the winter holiday period, we predict the road tripper, the conscious flyer, and the experience seeker are to be the most valuable of the personas that you could go after. So I pulled an additional persona study for each of these groups to better understand their nuances. And here you can see their demographics, right? You can see that the genders are pretty much evenly split, with each leaning only slightly to be more male. Regarding age, the large majority of the road tripper is between 25 to 34. The conscious flyer actually skews a little bit older, with 26% above 55. And similar to the road tripper, the experience seeker is primarily between the ages of 25 to 34. Here you can see a little bit more about their interests, right? So the road tripper is nearly 16 times more likely than the general population to own the Hertz app, 10 times more likely to own the Hotels Tonight app, and 5.1 times more likely to own the Slick Deals app. Based on the app ownership, in addition to app and site engagement, it is apparent that these users are pretty excited to get on the road and will be incentivized potentially by some cost-saving types of messaging, right? And for the conscious flyer, 90% of this audience own the Uber app. They own various airline aggregator apps, but they don't only fly, right? They are 3 times more likely than the general population to own the Amtrak app as well. They also like staying informed on what's happening around them. They're 2.2 times actually more likely than the general population to own the safety app Citizen. These safety conscious travelers will book their trips well in advance, and they'll be incentivized specifically by safety messaging. And finally, the experience seeker, right? 28% of these users own the All Trails app, like I mentioned, and they are 9.5 times more likely than the general population to own the VRBO vacation rentals app, and 5.5 times more likely to own the dating app Hinge. Right? So these users are eager to explore their surroundings and will be incentivized by unique and exciting opportunities and offers. There's really a lot more I can share from these studies, and if you are interested in learning more, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to share it as a follow-up. But for now, I'm going to illustrate a bit about how you can activate on this type of insights and this type of information. And here's an example of how to do that, right? How to target these 3 sub-personas that I've highlighted, right? You should combine demographic inputs, like we mentioned, there's different variants there for you to take into consideration, with a custom app and site targeting matrix, such as what you see here. And the interests and behaviors of the personas. Once you know those, right, you can get extremely granular with your targeting. And this ensures that you are sharing the right message with the right user as each traveler does have a different need and a different reason why they'd like to travel. So you must actually communicate with them very differently. They're just different types of people with different motivations. So before we begin our discussion, just some key takeaways that I really want you to remember. The first, that not all travelers share the same behaviors and interests, right? They're all different. So you need to understand the nuances between the varying traveler personas so that you can reach them with the right message. The next takeaway is that you need to lead with safety first messaging. It's clear that safety is a top priority, so travel brands should ensure to emphasize health and safety precautions when communicating with consumers. And finally, you really must implement an impactful mobile branding experience, right? Driven by user choice. Put the user at the center of the equation, of which, of course, we'll continue to discuss more in our conversation. But these are the three major takeaways. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to unshare my screen and have Molly and Alex turn on their cameras so that we can get into our conversation. Let's see here. Everyone is on the screen now. Excellent. Molly, Alex, you're gonna have to come off that and come on to video. There you are. Great. Well, thank you both so much. And again, thanks everyone for joining us today. I'd love to kick this chat off by you both introducing yourselves and your roles. And if we could pry a bit into your personal lives, what is your next trip, your next travel experience in some way, and where is it to? Molly, you can go first. You're first on my screen. How's that?
Perfect. Hi, thanks so much. Thanks for having me. I'm excited for this conversation, and that was really insightful. So always love to learn more about what's going to help somebody start traveling again. Any information is welcome. So I am Vice President of Marketing at Delta Airlines. I've been here. It's been really interesting. I've only been at Delta for about 9 months. So joined end of last year, and I thought we were on a high. And we have been through the best day at Delta, where we had profit sharing back in February and gave away $1.6 billion to our employees, to our worst and darkest days just a month and a half later, end of March, beginning of April. So it's been a bit of a wild ride, and a lot of learning along the way, a lot of innovation, a lot of reinvention. I will say we have upended our entire consumer experience within the last 6 months. And really, as we've learned more about this pandemic, thinking about all the layers of safety and protection that we've put in place along the way to keep our passengers and our employees safe. And it has really overturned and changed how we market and our messaging. So I know we'll talk more about that and implications on that. But so it's been a bit of a wild ride. Prior to being at Delta, I was at Warner Media and Turner Broadcasting for 19 years, running marketing and branding and various jobs. So complete change in industry and a lot of great learning over the past several months. And so my next trip, I will say, one of the things that we're seeing in trends is that sun destinations are the place to go. If it's not out west with wide open space, people are flocking to the beach. So I'm actually planning a trip to Cancun over my kids' fall break in early October. So super excited about that. We're seeing, what huge demand we're having is for places like Mexico, Florida, and once Hawaii comes back, I think we'll have a lot of demand for that as well.
That sounds lovely. Alex, how about yourself?
All right. Yeah, man, Molly,
Tough to beat.
What a time to drive travel. What a time to join the travel industry, huh?
Yeah, really good timing, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Gee, if we all had a crystal ball, right? I'm Alex Sutton. I'm the head of integrated media at ABG for the Americas. Where basically I leverage audience, media, measurement, and digital transformation strategy to drive car rentals and car sales growth. So I oversee media for for Avis Budget Truck, and our Avis car sales brands, direct to consumer effort. So this has been This has probably been the biggest challenge, not just that Avis Budget Group has faced. It was sort of the pandemic and the economic fallout, but probably that our industry has faced overall since its inception. So it's our brands have been around for some 70 plus years, and not that anyone was around that's still in the business from 7 years ago, but it's commonly said that this is the toughest time we've had, and such a great time for learning, such a great time to just the part of me that wants to continually learn about consumer behavior, and what impacts those behaviors, what are people thinking about and such. Is such a great time to sort of learn. And so I'm sitting there sort of off camera, just nodding my head at all of the information that you were sharing around the changes that we're seeing and people's thoughts around travel. We see a lot of that in the data that we collect as well. Mm-hmm. So it's made for a really interesting time and a really great time to be a marketer, particularly across digital. So glad to be here. As far as a trip, we haven't discussed our next trip. A beach destination, though. Yes, that seems like the most popular way to go. I think that would suit us just fine. Yeah. So a beach destination, and somewhere a lot warmer than it is in the New York metropolitan area. So yeah.
Yeah, it's getting a little chilly. Okay, fantastic. Well, thanks so much again for you both to be here. It's awesome. All right, I got a list of some questions here for you both. We're going to start by discussing some challenges. Have to do that. You both touched on it a little bit, but COVID-19's lockdown measures and the subsequent travel restrictions really brought travel to a sudden halt. Right? Everyone experienced it. You both alluded to it. It impacted the entire industry. So, which part of your business was most impacted? And what is the impact now that it's 6 months later? Right? What have you seen change or whatever else? And maybe Alex, because you're on my screen now, you can start with this one, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think every part of our car rental and car sales business was impacted to varying degrees, right? We in particular airport rentals, right? And so, when we one of the data sources we monitor are TSA numbers, of the number of the throughput through TSA, and our airport rentals followed that tremendous drop. I mean, it dropped down into the 20% range of prior year, and so that's been particularly tough, right? And initially we saw a big drop in our car sales business, and so this is where we sell our fleet vehicles, and we sell them pretty quickly. They're near-term vehicles, so they're vehicles. What we have in inventory now are 2020 and 2019 vehicles, right? And so, and we saw a initial big drop both in volume or demand and price. But what's interesting about the car sales business is that OEMs stopped manufacturing, and then we saw a huge lift in the car sales business. So, which is a lot different than what we saw on the rental side. And so, that's been a big opportunity for us. I'm sure for other car rental brands and used cars all around. So, those are some of the things that we've seen across our businesses in varying degrees. We've seen what's interesting is we didn't see quite as hard a hit to our off-airport business, right? And I think that just goes that people were shying away from what we observed, but people were shying away from air travel and moving more towards, but we're still needing to get around, and some for travel, some for other work needs, but we're renting vehicles and renting them, locally, not necessarily from the airport. So that's what we saw on our end. Yeah.
Interesting. Molly, how about yourself?
Yeah, well, I mean, the impact on the airport, absolutely. It just kind of our entire industry came to a halt. And, we're slowly climbing out of it. To Alex's point, we were, air travel was hit very hard at 9/11. but it was a more limited period of time. This has just been much more stretched out, with a lot more uncertainty, and around how do we build back that customer confidence, and restore it. So, initially we saw everything just bottom out. And then we saw small slight signs as the summer came around to seeing small bits of leisure travel coming back. So leisure is coming back at a greater clip than business. And Delta is really a premium carrier. So business is a huge piece of, what our focus is on. So that's been a big challenge. So we have really been doing a lot of education. A lot of our marketing is really switched from awareness and broad-based and brand marketing, to really building education around these layers of protection and all the different things we're doing, from spraying every flight, after every flight, every day, to partnerships that we've put in place with the Mayo Clinic, Emory, Lysol, to really get expertise to help us think about all of the mitigation factors that we can put into play. And not only are we telling that to consumers as we're trying to build their confidence, but it's a lot of education to business and business traveler sectors. We do these things that we call FAM tours, where we take business owners and the corporate travel owner at our top clients, and bring them to the airport so they can see and experience all the different things that we're doing to keep their employees and passengers safe. So it's been a lot of education. So we're starting to slowly see people now also book a little further out. We were seeing a big change in consumer habits, where people were buying tickets just with a week in advance. There was a lot of concern that they wouldn't have the flexibility. Now all the airlines have dropped change fees. So there's a lot. We've also learned that flexibility is a big part of what makes people feel confident to fly. So the more flexibility we can give, the more that people are saying, okay, I am ready to book 30 to 90 days out, especially as we enter in the pre-holiday season. So we are seeing more, again, leisure, but booking further out. So we're starting to see that come back. The only other silver lining, really in the spring was cargo. And that's really a small piece of our business, but we started to see a lot more. And we were kind of partnering with UPS and FedEx to help as more and more people were doing shipping and online. So that was an area that we leaned into, because we were able to get a little more business from cargo than we have done in the past. So again, slowly seeing green shoots, but really need business travel to come back.
Yep, absolutely. I can imagine. And as a frequent flyer myself,
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know.
The no change fee thing. Yeah, the no change fee thing should be really useful, though, because I could see the value in that. I mean, that's always a tough piece of it.
Right.
Very interesting. So let me ask this question just about advertising specifically, right, or marketing more generally. How are you leaning more into your agencies and your ad tech partners to navigate this mess? Because advertising, we know, is a massive line item on your budgets. How are your partners helping you get through this situation? Molly, you're on my screen first.
Yeah.
Whoever talks last is probably the first to get the next question.
It's really, it's been interesting. Our partners, our advertising and media partners have been fantastic through all of this. I mean, true partners. We've got long-standing partners with our agencies. And what we found was, we had to pull back on budgets and a lot of agency fee support, just because out of necessity to stop the cash flow that was going out the door on a daily basis. So pulled way back on a lot of our traditional media spend and marketing spend, and had to be a little more scrappy and bring a lot of work that we normally would have done with our agency partners in-house. So doing really all of our social creative and all of our in-house social channels are now really being driven in-house, whereas before we've leaned on outside agencies. We've also had to work with our agencies differently. So in the past, we have longer production times and a little little bit more time to dig into the strategy and beautiful production. Now we are really kind of doing quick turn things around because everything's moving so quickly that we've had to change even the relationship of how we work with the agency, and even said, look, we don't need the high-end production. It's okay to shoot it on your iPhone. I just need, we go into a lot of myth busting is what we're trying to do, so that people think that the air on the airplane is recirculated air. It is not. It is the freshest air. It's cleaner than your grocery store, your house, your office building, your school. And so we're trying to find new ways to tell that story and do it in a visual way versus kind of just telling them so people can kind of see it and understand it. But in order to do that, it's a different kind of turn. So we're kind of learning with the agencies and building new muscle around that. So, it's I would say, they've been with us on this journey as well and have been able to be really agile and flexible and nimble just because we're doing a different kind of marketing than we have done in the past.
Super interesting. Yeah. And are you, and Alex, I'll give you a chance to answer the same question, but just as a quick follow-up from Molly, like from a personalization standpoint, right? Because there's so many different types of travelers, like you mentioned, just business and consumer, or maybe even on the consumer side, there's just different reasons why somebody would travel. Are your agencies, it sounds like they are, working with you, or even maybe your in-house social team now, are working with you on a personalization strategy? And what data goes into making those decisions? Or how does that?
Yeah.
You?
Yeah. We do, like, Ed has Ed Bastian, our CEO. We do updates from him on a regular basis. So hopefully you'll be getting one from him, maybe even tomorrow. And we segment those markets. So we know that the more personalized the messaging, so there's we have a version that goes to people who have travel that is already booked. So the messaging is different to those just general members. That's a little more about we're ready when you are messaging. And then we also, as we think about kind of who and when are we ready to send messages to inspire travel? We are really thinking about how are we finding people that have been on delta.com and maybe searched terms or have been looking at travel restrictions. That's been a big barrier to entry, is people are worried because, okay, even if I feel comfortable to fly, do I even know what's going to be open? What are the rules when I get there? And so helping give clarity around that. So the more we see search on our site, as well as, we've really leaned into performance media as our key kind of messaging, we then can be very targeted in how we go back and tailor all of our messages to those audiences to make sure it's as relevant as possible to them. So if I've seen, if there's ways, and we know that you've been searching for sun destinations, how can I make sure that you're getting the destination email and the inspiration travel email that has those destinations in it with maybe a fare sale? So we have been much more thoughtful in how we segment those audiences and then have really kind of tailored messages to each one of them.
Awesome. Super interesting. So then Alex, for you, I mean, same question really. Have your agency partners and your ad tech partners sort of been working with you navigating this? Like, how has that relationship strengthened or weakened potentially over these last 6 months?
Yeah. And really, I think Molly said it all. I mean, I think, our experience has been very much the same, right? In regard to our agency partners and our ad tech partners, is that we're in crisis. We've been forced to do a lot more with a lot less, and they've really stepped up. They understand the need, and they've got a very got to credit all of our media agency and our ad tech partners with having a very having a long-term view of our relationship, and really just sort of stepping up. And we've had to pull back. We've had the right side of the business. The business has fallen quite a bit. I'd love to say our margins were big enough to cover the drop in demand, but the fact matters is across industries it's not. And so so we've had to flex internally and do more with less, and so have they, and so that's been really great. And so I would say that we retain probably more services across the board than the drop in than drop in sort of fees would normally necessitate, which has been fantastic. And so that's been really helpful to us. We've taken a lot more, we've become a lot more scrappy, right? And we've taken more in-house in terms of production, and in terms of even some of our optimization efforts and such, as we look across the board, and some of our personalization efforts and how we try to personalize media and sort of shift with the change and sort of roll with the new behaviors that we're observing out there. And so that's that's been sort of some of the saving grace in all of this. And to Molly's point as well, we've been able to find sort of do a bit of, I like that term, myth busting, right? We've been able to do a bit of myth busting and find out that we figured out that we could do, there's a lot that we can do, even though we're somewhat limited in terms of internal and external partner staffing. We can still get a lot done and pivot, right? And pivot with the rest of the marketplace. So that's been really helpful.
And I agree. The myth busting makes a ton of sense, right? Everyone has their own preconceived notions of what's good, what's bad, and no one really knows the right answer in many cases. So for you, Alex, like, how has your messaging shifted really to meet these customers' expectations, specifically around health and safety, right? We saw that as a huge thing for a huge concern for getting back into traveling. Have you changed your messaging to address that? What are you doing differently there? Or maybe not. How's it impacting what you're up to?
Oh yeah, no. So so we've been fortunate enough to have a lot of market data, similar data that you shared up front with the concerns around safety. Also, our employees are concerned about safety. Our customers and our employees are concerned about safety. So fairly quickly, we did quite a few things from both brands. So we launched the Avis Safety Pledge, and we launched the Budget Worry-Free Promise, right? And in each of these, we've changed our procedures around how we clean our vehicles. Our procedures are how we operate with our employees and with our customers, and the various touch points. And so within that safety pledge and the Worry-Free Promise, we've launched a partnership with RB Reckitt Benckiser Lysol brand. And so we've been able to take a lot of the science around what they know around fighting germs and apply that to how we clean our vehicles. We created what we're calling the Avis Budget Group Medical Advisory Council. And so, there's about five leading medical professionals from Columbia and NYU and other institutions, and Johns Hopkins, who now advise us on how, both procedurally and technically what kills, how to disinfect properly, and then also partner with the Hip Hop Public Health, so HHPH, the Hip Hop Public Health Foundation, more so on the front to get our employees engaged, right, around how to clean and how to disinfect take disinfection to another level. And so we pretty quickly we implemented that, and then we started to promote it, right? Of course, as part of the pullback, a lot of our advertising resources were reduced, and so a lot of what we've done pulled back to performance media. But we've also boosted our own channels, so our organic social efforts, right, around getting the word out around safety. And one of the things that we found is that the closer in someone gets to deciding that they want to rent a vehicle, they're probably the more receptive they are to and sensitive they are to price. But the further out, when you're into the planning phase, right, those safety messages really resonate incredibly well. They're strong, they're timely, and they give people a lot of comfort around actually moving forward with their vacation plans if they involve a car. So that's some of the things that we've done around our messaging. Around safety and to adjust the environment, as well as just our procedure. So I'm pretty proud of our group, of our business overall, for being able to pivot so quickly, right? And putting employees first as well while we do it. So
it's not something that a lot of companies can do. So that's fantastic. Okay, so we're gonna do something a little differently than we've done in other sessions like this, we have an attendee poll question.
Nope.
Okay. So we're going to poll the audience. I'm very excited for this. Poll is now on your screen. We know that safety is important to us all, obviously, but I am curious to know what else is important to everyone on this, who's dialed in today. So on the screen, you can see the poll, right? The question is, what would incentivize you most to book any travel? I took safety out of the equation because we've all discussed this. We know it's incredibly important, but please select from these three. And we'll give, probably 10 or so more seconds for everyone to answer the question, and then we'll reveal the answers on here. So super exciting stuff. I'm pumped. Let's see what happens. Alex and Molly, make sure you submit your poll too.
Done.
Done.
All right. Tick tock, tick tock. All right, let's see. Let's see what we have, if we have the answers ready. Oh my gosh, almost a tie, but the destination
Wow.
seems to have won by 1%. So
Wow.
I'm surprised. Maybe you both are or aren't, but I thought that cost might play a larger role. But I guess at this point now, it's like, how do we get out of our house, right? Let's get to the destination as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So
Fantastic.
Yep, that's right.
there you go. And
Now, Evan, are we going to be publishing results from today's quiz? We got a good.
We weren't planning on it, but this is statistically relevant. I mean, there's enough people there to make the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe we will. Yeah, and that's good. All right, so we have another question later on as well. So we'll keep going. But all right, it is clear again that travel behaviors have obviously changed, right? That's irrefutable. But what's also changed pretty significantly are our digital behaviors and how we engage with content and whatnot online and on our phones. And we spend so much more time on our mobile devices than we ever had in the past. So for both of you, have you changed your targeting strategy or your media mix strategy to keep up with the evolution of consumers' media consumption? Molly, again, you're on the screen, so I'll let you take that one first.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As I said earlier, we're becoming much more hyper targeted and audience led. And so we actually kind of rolled out a whole new framework, which is really based on re-looking at the marketplace, re-looking at our consumers and understanding the new segments within this new realm, right? Because what the world of flyers looked like back in February is very different than what it looks like today. So we've changed our media mix completely. We are no longer in parts for budget, parts strategy, but really no longer doing kind of big broad-based awareness reach vehicles, and are much more into performance driven marketing, targeted emails, leaning really heavily into our social channels, as Alex was saying, and really thinking about how are we making sure that we're getting the right message to the right people at the right time when they're really open to the message. So, there was a moment in time where people did not want to see a travel message. They felt it was, irresponsible. There was one of our competitors came out middle of the summer with a really heavy fare sale and got a lot of negative backlash. So really trying to figure out, making sure that we're reading the audience, and really leveraging the data that we have so that we can kind of make sure that for those who are open to a travel message, we get that message to them, and keep moving them through the funnel. So it's been a radical shift. So not only in what we're marketing, the things that we're leaning into, which is very similar to what Alex was talking about, which is about safety. And frankly, we've got to educate people on what it looks like to travel now. You've got to wear a mask. It's very different going through the airport. Is there going to be someone sitting next to you? Make sure that you're, booking Delta where we're blocking the middle seat through the end of the year. So it is a very different experience. And even those who have been frequent flying for a while, and on our biggest customers, we have to go and educate them. And so we also use pre-flight communication in a way that we've never done before. So now when you travel, you get 4 emails from us, making sure that we're setting expectations so that there are no surprises along the way. And then right before you board, you get a text message saying the flight has been sanitized and certified and you're ready to board. So more of those cues, leveraging different platforms, and really leveraging the mobile device as kind of a travel concierge through the whole travel ribbon.
Interesting. And then Alex, similar for you, or do you have a different approach? Have you seen, understanding performance media and social are so much more critical. How about from a device perspective? Like, is mobile more prominent for you in your campaigns versus desktop, or are you platform agnostic? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I would say that going into the pandemic, we were fairly device agnostic, right? However, ever since we've just seen higher levels of mobile traffic, I think that, and I hypothesize that that's a result of people being at home a lot more and being on their mobile and tethered to their mobile devices a bit more closely, and so that's played into a lot of how we've pivoted post post pandemic. And I'd say, it's got to say, I think, our budgets have been significantly reduced from an advertising perspective. But I do love the fact that we've still kept the mindset for and a practice of experimentation. Right. And so, we've been able to dabble in some OTT and basically some connected TV and as well as some online video. We've designed for mobile first, right? Recognizing that that's where people have shifted, and we've similar to, it's not my area, but similar to what Molly's saying, at Delta, we've increased our email and app messaging, which is largely mobile, app of course, but email in particular, and we're seeing that shift even higher. So, in terms of mobile devices, yeah, they play into how we design the creative. Heck, even at the search level, right? And how we the extensions that we activate to take up more space, how we prioritize it in our spend. It's playing a bigger role. At first, before it was just, then it ties out in some of the performance as well. We've got done a lot of great work to make sure that the mobile experience, if you come to our site, is one that is of high quality and fast. And I think that it's playing itself out. It's playing out really well for us now.
Awesome. Yeah. Staying on the topic of media, though, in today's digital world or economy, right? Giving consumers choice and control of their own experience and over digital advertising experience, we don't think it's just the right thing to do. We actually really firmly believe it's the right thing to do, but it's also like a legal requirement in many cases, right? So, and ultimately imperative for business success, right? Letting your customers sort of tell you what they want. So how are you giving that type of control to the user or to the consumer to control their experience? And even more importantly, we think control their data, right? There's a lot of information everybody's collecting. So how do you give them control over their data and ultimately their experience with your brand? You're up, Alex.
Oh. Yeah. So that is a question with a lot. I would say, initially I'm thinking it's a question with a lot of landmines in it.
Not intentional.
Yeah. But what I'm happy to report is that I think we were in a pretty moving in the right direction back when GDPR was on board. We have a lot of inbound traffic from outside of the country into our country, particularly from EMEA. Yeah. So we've done a lot of work to make sure that we're compliant, that we have a lot of transparency with the partners that we work with, and when CCPA came on board and started becoming more and more a reality, we started to really move quickly to make sure, as I'm certain everyone has, right, move quickly to make sure that we can comply with giving people more control over their data. Personally, I believe that you should have control over your data, and there should be a lot more transparency. I believe in very radical transparency. I think it'll give people, to some people, it may be shocking the amount of data that flows around about at least on an aggregated basis about their behavior. And I think we'd settle nationwide, I think that we would settle. There'd be a bit of disruption, and we'd eventually settle. I think it is the right thing to allow people to opt out, right, and allow people to opt in, conversely, right, and speak to those who are people who are engaged and open to understanding if there are products and services that can help them, right, at the end of the day, and are relevant to it, to their needs. And so I think it provides a much better experience, and I think that the surveys that articles and surveys that I've read support the same. And so what I can say at this point is that we are certainly compliant and supportive, whether someone is requesting information about their own data from the state of California or elsewhere.
Great. And Molly, same question to you, and then we'll open up to Q&A for everybody as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Molly, you're on mute.
Molly,
there.
you're on mute. There we go.
You're on mute. It wouldn't be a digital webinar without someone being on mute.
Doing
right?
that.
Oh, it was totally going to be me.
I'm waiting for a kid to pop. I'm waiting for someone's kid to pop in. I'm waiting for my son to run up the stairs. Yeah.
Exactly. Or my dogs to start barking. No, I think Alex said it really well. I mean, I think it's really about transparency and building trust, right? And similar sounds like to Alex's team, we are obviously compliant and have worked really hard to make sure that we are bringing that transparency to our consumers as we build out different policies. Our privacy policy is opt out. And believe that is the right thing to do. But I really believe that if we are bringing value and customers are getting value and we are being transparent in how we're using their data to deliver that value, then it can really be a win-win situation. And so I think that's where, we have to be clear on what is the end game for the consumer, what are they getting out of it, and how do we make sure that they have a complete visibility into how we're using their data, and is it worth it for them?
Completely makes sense, right? If someone is getting something of value to them, they're more willing to share attributes about
That's
themselves
right.
that could lead to better experiences. Completely agree.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we'll take a question from the audience here. So Alex and Molly, this one's for both of you. What are your advertising objectives heading into Q4 2020? Are you still focusing on safety and education, or are you pivoting more towards an inspirational message? How do you plan to leverage advertising to kickstart your business going forward? Lots in there. So Molly, we'll start with you. Why don't we start with the Q4 objective piece? I
think, it's interesting. I think it's a great question. We're kind of balancing and feeling our way through it. We are definitely continuing to lean into kind of our safety message and, our, what we call our Delta Care Standard. And into many partnerships like Alex even referenced. So we are in partnership with the Mayo Clinic and with Lysol and Purell and Emory Healthcare and Quest Diagnostic. And really because we know that there's still a lot of concern and angst out there, but we're also seeing some of this coming back, as I said earlier. So we're trying to balance it with travel inspiration, and a bit of kind of making sure that we're kind of have something to look forward to. And we know there's pent up demand. And so I think you'll see we've been so laser focused on safety and the Delta Care Standard, and we'll continue to keep a heavy pressure on that. But I think as we come through the end of this year and definitely into next year, leaning a lot more into inspiration and motivation and kind of book now, travel later messaging.
Right. And Alex, for you, Q4 2020 objectives, similar?
Yeah. So and I'll go back to experimentation. It's really helpful here to help us understand. So we're always testing a number of different messages at various stages of the funnel, and right now, for those who are, I think it's safe to say, for those who are in market to travel, all right, the safety message isn't the prevailing winner, right? And I think that makes sense, right? They've decided that they're going to travel. They're in market. There are a lot of markers that are showing that they are looking to travel in a more direct way, and are in the sort of the final throes of their planning stages. And so, so we'll continue to go with other more DR oriented messages at that stage. And as we move out, as we move up the funnel into consideration, we're seeing that safety still plays very well And so messages around how we're keeping all of our customers as well as all of our employees safe. Those tend to still do very well and resonate with and pushing people down the decision funnel. And so at least as best as we can tell. And
Great.
so I think that as we go into Q4, we'll continue to monitor that and pivot as necessary. I do believe there's a lot of pent up travel demand. And so I think we're also closely monitoring regulations, right, and how those regulations change at the state level, because a lot of data suggests that people are looking to the lack of a better term, the government, both local and federal, to understand, like, is it okay to travel? Where is it okay to travel? Is it okay to go out? Can I have to wear a mask inside? Do I not? And so we see demand shift. It's really interesting when you see the demand shift state by state when you're looking at those different regulations. And if you just plot the dates that they change, and you can see demand sort of shift. And so so we'll continue to monitor that as well for signals of some release from the pent up travel demand. So.
Awesome. Well, we're bumping up against the end of time here, so we didn't get a chance to get to the other poll question, which is fine. We got actually, you know what? Should we throw it out there right now? Let's do it real quick. Real quick.
Do it.
Real quick.
Come on.
All right. Second poll question. We're curious to hear everyone on the call. Will you be booking any trips over the upcoming winter holiday? Here are your options. Yes, I have. Yes, I will soon. No, I plan to stay put. All right. We'll do this one quickly. It's just too insightful to not do. While everyone's taking their survey here, we'll give it an extra few seconds. But I just want to thank Molly and Alex again for joining me on this, and everyone on the Ad Club for joining as well. I found this to be incredibly insightful and interesting. As a traveler who is looking to consider traveling again myself, I really appreciate hearing from the two of you and learning some of the educational pieces that are going into your messaging. I think it speaks very well to, again, going back to the Mythbuster piece. What's real, what's not? Like the circulated air thing, admittedly, I thought it was circulated. I'm not going to lie. So that for me that was a huge revelation. Now I might go talk to my wife about traveling. We'll see.
Yes.
So, awesome. Oh, and the polls are up. Okay. Will you be booking any trips? The answer is yes, I will soon. So only 9% already have. Okay. And 50% are planning on doing it, which is a pretty solid number. So there is hope yet for this travel business. Thank you again, both.
Thank
Gina,
you.
Yeah, Gina, I'll send it over back to you.
Thank you all. This was a great discussion. Evan, I just wanted to thank you for sharing this important research with our members. It's going to be available in our follow-up. Molly, thank you for inspiring me to book holiday travel. I was on the fence, but you put me over the edge. And Alex, I think one of the biggest takeaways, thank you for reminding us all that this is really a time to continue to learn. We're all learning every single day, and just that little reminder from you today just sparked something for me and probably for a lot of other people listening. And so to all of you who've joined us, we're so appreciative because we know you have lots of options, and this was a great discussion. Thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day.